Well, let's talk about game controversies. So this is kind of a sequel to a previous video I did all the way back in 2023. While I have still covered controversies in gaming, this video is more about general controversies and not specifically about a company or a series. So, let's get into my number 5 pick, and as of course, retro games. Well, so this is specifically talking about retro games that are, well, too difficult to find or straight up just extremely expensive. Now, retro gaming has been making a boom during the last few years where, well, many older franchises are seeing a bit more attention with collectors and casual audiences. This is, of course, talking about the Pokemon series too, as well. I've noticed it quite a bit with this franchise. Now, the issue with retro games is that sometimes it's just difficult to find them. Now, sure, on some consoles they are available, like let's say you want the original Persona 4. Okay, it's on PlayStation 3 and literally like $20 on that console. Okay, so what if you want the oh, can't even think of another one. I guess let's say if you want the original Resident Evil or the original Resident Evil 2. Well, just simply go on PlayStation 3 and you can easily find them. But what if you wanted something like Pokemon Red and Blue? Well, unless you had a 3DS and got them off the eShop, you're going to have a very difficult time simply due to the fact that, well, these games can kind of be difficult to find and expensive. And this is the case for other retro games too. Not to mention, it does not help that the developers of these games also don't port these over to newer consoles. Well, Nintendo has done the same with the Mario series. The Pokemon series and quite a few other franchises, well, other games have kind of had trouble not being on modern consoles. This is also the same thing when it comes to the PS4 with PS3 games. The only way to play some of these games is to get a PS3 or just hope that they have them on PS Plus. This isn't really too much of a controversy, but more of a criticism of the gaming industry, as some feel that older games are a bit more difficult to get and that you have to fork out a lot of money just to be able to experience some of these titles. And of course, next up, we of course have games going multi-platform. So, yeah, technically I have talked about this one before when I talked about Persona 5 going multi-platform, but unfortunately, once again, this is a controversy. I try not to recover too many of them, but I just felt that it was time to really talk about this one. So Final Fantasy 16 is on Xbox, and Final Fantasy 7 Remake is also coming to Xbox. There's no news about Rebirth yet, but considering that Remake is on Xbox, well, chances are Rebirth and the final part are probably going to be on Xbox. Unfortunately, with some PlayStation fans, this was kind of a death sentence to Final Fantasy. I seriously wish I was kidding. There's quite a few people online who got upset about Final Fantasy coming to Xbox, which is kind of silly because the Xbox has had Final Fantasy games before, so it just doesn't really make sense that they're complaining about Final Fantasy being on the Xbox. And even then, Square has also seen some losses because they've made these exclusives. So all in all, it's a good business decision, and it also allows people to experience some really interesting games. But of course, there's fanboys that just kind of complain about everything. Next up, we of course have shutting down studios and layoffs. Now, this is not solely on Microsoft, but this is also talking about Sony too. So, studio buyouts, oh my bad, shutting down studios has been an issue in the gaming industry. Sometimes the game doesn't really perform well, and so they do shut down the studio. We've seen quite a few cases of this happening, and it's kind of unfortunate. But one of the more notable ones was, of course, Tango GameWorks, I think, and of course Arcane Austin. Now, these two had made Ghostwire Tokyo, Hi-Fi Rush, and of course Redfall. Now, sure, Redfall is an abomination of a game, but Ghostwire Tokyo and Hi-Fi Rush pretty much proved to be two of the best exclusives on the Xbox, and two of the best games of the ninth generation. Bunch of creativity with these ones, so it sucks to see these studios get shut down just because either Microsoft is, I don't know why Microsoft did that, but it also sucks to see Arcane Austin get shut down because of one bad game. Sony is not the best either because Sony has also had several layoffs, and I think they might have also closed down a studio or so. And we've also seen this with Activision Blizzard as they've lost quite a few employees, and I think we've also seen this at Ubisoft. Overall, the studio closures and layoffs aren't really a good thing in gaming, and frankly are just making, and not just frankly making the community a lot worse than it already has been with other issues. Next up, we of course have Mind's Eye and its failure. So this is kind of a, well, bit of a 180, which is unfortunate because this game did seem pretty fun, but, well, it's a buggy mess. I've already talked about it up on my other channel, but the TLDR for this one is that the frame rate is just atrocious, the gameplay feels lackluster, and of course there's bugs that quite a few people have experienced. It also did not help that members who worked on this game were leaving before it even launched, and just kind of the fact that no review copies were sent out, kind of giving off some serious red flags. A lot of people are also disappointed that the producer of the game, Leslie Benzies, who also produced GTA 3 through GTA 5, also worked on this game, but, well, it turned out like this. So, yeah, all in all, Mind's Eye is kind of a failure of a game and certainly rifled up a few feathers. And of course, at number one, we of course have Splitgate 2's, well, Splitgate 2's launch. Or of course, PR. So this was a bit more recent. So there was a tweet on Twitter, never calling it X, which basically had a guy wearing a hat that said, "Make FPS games great again," which really drew a lot of ire from many indie gaming community. Not only were they, well, not only was it just kind of why, but also really kind of a really stupid thing. I think this one gets into more of a controversy because, well, you know, you are kind of bringing. Yeah, I think this one gets into a bit more of a controversy because you are kind of parodying a real life political group that has been notorious for various actions they've done, and in such a very divisive time. And yeah, I don't really think I want to be parodying people who are just completely awful because, like, most people just don't want to see it on the games. And I'm honestly just making clear I do dislike that group. So yeah, that kind of drew my ire. Not to mention, you also have one of the staff members is continuously talking crap on first-person shooters, and, well, there's a video by the Kingard who went into this game and kind of pointed out some really good hypocrisies that these guys had. So, all in all, if they just kind of kept their mouth shut, the game probably would have had a better PR moment. But, of course, sometimes they just have run their mouth. That's, of course, it for today's video. I will, of course, be back next time with a new Pokemon video. I will also continue the general game controversies videos, and, of course, focusing on various studios and game franchises. So until then, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful night.